you're gonna scream for about 20 years. And I said, that sounds like a good idea. I said, can I bring some of my friends along? And then they said, no, you have to cast Sean as Goku. I'm just kidding. We had these auditions back in the day for Dragon Ball Z. Gosh, no one would work with Funimation because they had never worked with any of the agencies before. They were like, who are these people and why are they working out of a bank? So we had to have these massive cattle call auditions, and that's where we found Sean Schemmel. And Sean broke every rule about acting when it came to getting cast in a role.
Yes. I called every day.
He called every day.
Did you guys cast that show yet? Did I get a part?
Like, if you were ever going to teach someone, like, here are the things not to do if you're trying to audition for a role, he broke every single rule.
Because it was my first audition.
And then when I finally said, hey man, this is Chris Sabat. Yeah, you remember me, you called me this morning, and just want to let you know you got cast in Dragon Ball, so we'll see you next Friday.
No, but then you said, you're going to play, I go, what part I get? You go, you're going to play Goku. And I'm like, oh man, you sure I didn't get that Captain Ginyu part? Because I was real good at that Captain Ginyu audition. And he goes, no, trust me, you're gonna like this part. He didn't tell me it was a lead role, and they don't tell you that in the audition. They just say, here's the part. And he didn't tell me for 3 weeks of recording. He goes, about 3 weeks in, he goes, this is the lead, right? I'm like, really? That's awesome. Yeah. I didn't even know.
I figured it would just do nothing but damage if he knew.
Pretty much. My head would explode.
And then eventually, I was working with this other guy named Mike McFarland. He played Master Roshi in the earliest days of Dragon Ball. And Mike McFarland was in this awesome comedy group called Section 8 Comedy, and that's where I actually met Chris Rager and Josh Martin.
This is true.
I'll let them continue the story.
So Mike McFarland was in a comedy troupe with us, Section 8 Comedy. He performed improv and sketch comedy. We were kind of like, whose line is it anyway, in Saturday Night Live, except we said the F word a lot. And then Mike came in one day into the back. We were at the Ozona Bar and Grill. We had a regular show there at the Ozona Bar and Grill down on
really good quesadillas there.
Right. Fine Hispanic food and great comedy on Tuesday nights of all nights. So Mike came in one night and was like, hey man, out in Fort Worth, they're paying people to do voices for cartoons. I'm like, you're doing it? He's like, yeah. Well, I was like, well, then I know I can do it. No, Mike's wonderful, and so I went in one day. Mr. Satan was on the docket, as they say. He was there, and he had a belt on. He had the championship belt on. He had a victory pose kind of thing going on. His mouth was wide open. I saw this mustache and the belt, and I just thought the only thing that kept going through my head was Hulk Hogan. This guy looks like Hulk Hogan. And so I went with kind of Hogan as the base and sort of that 80s wrestler mentality, sort of cutting a promo, I'll see you at the Omni in Atlanta, brother, kind of.
Which works great with the delay. Like the delay, it's like we're in a wrestling match. This is perfect.
Because what are you going to do, brother, when all the Hulkamaniacs go wild on you, brother? Yeah. So they seem to like it, and Barry, thank you. And Barry, what was his name?
Watson
calls me up and says, hey Chris, we're going to cast you as Mr. Satan.
That's not how you said it.
Oh yeah, we're going to cast you as Mr. Satan.
Mr. Satan? Yeah, sorry. Oh, I get it mixed up now. It's been a while since I've had to do Barry. That sounded weird.
We aren't going to call him Satan, we're going to call him Hercule because we live in the South.
TV don't like it.
Well, one of the things I always hated too is in the script there was a writer who would never write the word Satan. Instead, I think it was Neil Christopher Bly was his name. Yeah, and he would write Mr. Mau Mau in the script. And so that was when I knew to say Satan. And that that irritated me to no end.
That would bother me.
I just had to get that out. I feel so much better. Thanks, guys.
Probably would have written it in and then shipped it back to him with a bunch of 666s on it. Yeah. I would have gone anagrams.
But so I went and auditioned. I got the part. And then one day, Sabat and some of the guys come out to see the show, and in that show, Josh Martin here does a character that we had named the Pillsbury Homeboy, in which we had converted the Pillsbury Home Doughboy into a gangster rapper, and I'll let Josh take over.
Melton says, love it like the blood's up, he puffin'.
And I said, that needs to be the voice of Majin Buu.
That's how casting works.
That was it,
That's enough.
right?
Yes, indeed, indeed. Alexis, you're a recent,
Yes.
recently to join the Dragon Ball family. Tell us about this experience.
Do you want to tell this story?
Well, we were like, we need somebody who looks as much like Laura Bailey as humanly possible.
So we took some Laura Bailey DNA and we went to the Funimation.
And we cloned someone.
We cloned someone who could also do
I woke up in a test tube and Sabat was just like, I'm your dad. It was really weird.
You're ready now.
Oh, yeah.
Starting to sound a lot like Dragon Ball, actually.
Alexis had been working at Funimation for a really long time, and a lot of people were comparing her to like the young, like Laura Bailey. And so we heard that enough, so when it was time for, when Laura had moved on to doing a bunch of stuff on LA and it became hard for her to record Trunks, we had to have an audition. We actually just ended up calling Alexis in to just try it, and she was awesome. And she's been Trunks ever since.
Well, okay, it started off slow because at first it was just,
An occasional video game or something.
well, and it was only Go Tanks.
Oh, that's right.
And
you
I
were the
actually-
stunt voice
Yeah,
first.
and I
Sorry.
wasn't allowed to talk about it. I wasn't allowed to say that I was voicing Go Tanks for like 2 years. And then when Trunks in his entirety was retired by Laura Bailey, then it was, I think, as of Super. Or I don't know, no, I forget.
In Kai, I
The
think.
chronology is so weird. Yeah, in Kai, I was allowed to say that I was credited as Go Tanks.
Right.
And then as of Super, I took over completely, like with Kid Trunks and Go Tanks. And so it was very complicated. People will come up and they're like, so when exactly did you start voicing Trunks? I'm like, okay, let me get all my puzzle pieces out. I'm gonna draw you a diagram. I'm gonna
Don't worry, we all have that problem.
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
first there was this Canadian cast.
So it was kind of.
I was the OG Mr. Satan.
That's right.
So
That's true.
You know.
I'm
so-
pretty fond of the Southeast Asian dub. For, like,
Oh, don't get me in trouble, man. You're gonna get me in a Twitter war.
Oh God. So yeah, my journey was kind of a roundabout. Took a couple years. It was a thing. It was a journey. But I'm happy to be here now. So.
We're so happy to have you.
could our awesome sound guys back there turn up our monitors a fair bit up here? Because
We can't hear ourselves, and it makes it. Our
kind of has
monitor-
this speech jammer-like quality.
Yes, it's like a.
There you go.
Yes. So
Sorry.
now we can hear ourselves.
You have no idea what
Thank you,
just happened
wizards in
there.
the back.
That makes so much.
Thank you.
Our team back there. Round of applause for our tech team, ladies and
Tech
gentlemen.
team, everybody. Number 55. I feel like we're in a stadium.
So when did you all individually realize that this particular franchise had become a thing? Either at the beginning, realize it may have eclipsed original expectations, or coming on board a little bit later, just the enormity and scope of this particular fandom.
You know, there's a hint of it early on, but it really hit us hard, I think, once Battle of Gods was announced and we came back. Because we hadn't really been away from the show that much, because we'd been recording video game once a year or so. And then I think it really started hitting home for me since 2013 on, even though early on I remember, going to Walmart or Target or somewhere, and a wall of TVs was playing Dragon Ball, and my voice is booming out of it, which really freaked me out a bit. And some kid was punching a toy that had my voice in it, and all it said was, "I will not let you beat me! I'm gonna win this fight!" over and over. And so my mom decided to buy that toy to take to a family reunion, and instead of flying, we took her car, and so for 800 miles, every time we hit a bump, it was, "I will not let you beat me! I'm gonna win this fight!" Like 8 jillion times all the way there, and I was sick of my own voice by the time we got to Iowa. That was in like 2001 or so, I guess.
It's funny you say that because my mother also bought the Vegeta one that she could punch as well. And it was like, is that all you have? Is that all you have?
And then your mom's like taking out your aggression.
Yeah. Because you're not allowed to beat actual children.
Like in the early days for me, like I remember Score Entertainment made the card game, right? And then they made like a trading card series, and they called us in to like sign some stuff. And I'd never signed my name for any reason other than like, an arrest warrant or, maybe a check.
No.
Yeah, I had trouble paying tickets when I was younger. But we were there, and they paid us a good little chunk of change to just sign our name a whole bunch of times on these things. And I just thought, man, that's the coolest thing ever. Can we do more of that, please? Like, where do we sign up to do this every day? Very cool.
The thing he's talking about are actually those art box cards. Do you guys remember collecting
Art
the art
boxes,
box
yeah.
cards when you were younger? A lot of them had like a gold foil on them, and there was one where like Piccolo was holding like bubbles or something like that. Anyway, they were pretty cool.
I have a book of them. I collected them over the years. I still have the book and all them sleeved and everything.
That's amazing.
So, what's been the most endearing memory from this whole experience?
Of this weekend or the last 20 years?
You know, you can decide. If you saw something really cool in Miami last night, I think we all did.
What was it?
What's that?
I didn't see that. What was it? I saw some fireworks.
I saw people that were overdressed and oversexed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not see those people. No.
Walk by the beach.
I would be curious about that, yes.
Man, honestly, for me, my brother and I used to watch Dragon Ball on like the original run of Toonami. Yeah, and so it's like kind of like my childhood. There you go. Yes, yes. So it's kind of like my childhood coming full circle because I remember I was in elementary school and I remember my brother was trying to get me to watch this show with him. He's like, "Come on, Lex! Like this is a really cool show," and I'm like, "That's for boys." And he's like, "No, but they've got like really cool like girl characters in it too." And so he was watching the Cell Saga. And I was like, yeah, and I was like, he showed me Android 18, and I thought she was so cool. And I was like, I guess I'll watch it. And so that was something we used to watch together after school. So it was really, really cool when I was able to talk about this role that getting to tell my brother, because he's a huge Dragon Ball fan. And so he was super excited, and it was just this really cool moment of like, oh my gosh, we used to watch that when we were kids. And so it was really special. So, yeah.
I have a moment when my daughter was at school. I take her to school. They have the teacher night, you know, you meet the teachers and do that kind of thing. And at the time I was wearing like a Borderlands shirt, you know, and one of her math teacher commented on it. And I was like, oh, cool, you like that game? And, you know, we went on, we talked about my daughter for a second. Then I came back to it. I was like, you know, I'm actually in this game, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, do you watch Dragon Ball Z? And all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, you're in Dragon Ball Z? My wife and I love that show. And next thing you know, can I get a picture with you? You know, and my daughter's like walks away with her friends, you know. That was my favorite moment.
You got another piece of candy for that. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, you're passing out candy. I was wondering what that
You don't
was.
get any.
Yes.
Is it gluten free?
Gluten and dairy.
Sean can't eat it unless
No,
it has gluten in it.
eat it and let's see if we find out.
No, I can't.
No, I better
I'll
not.
eat the heck out of it.
It's Tootsie Frootsies. If someone wants to look up online or something. How about you, Mr. Josh?
I think just overall for me, coming and meeting all the fans and get to meet everyone eye to eye and have a moment, that is super cool because you go in normally, you go into the booth for a second, you do the deal, you leave, and that's the end of it.
No one claps.
Right, yeah.
They don't
no
clap
one
when you
tells
leave the booth.
at all. But then you come out here and you guys are so awesome, so thank you.
I agree with Josh. That's my favorite part of doing this is the travel I don't love, but you know, you see a room like this or you meet everybody and that there's that experience of when you know you do the voice or someone recognizes you or someone you know lights up and you know that you've been part of like you know a Saturday morning eating a bowl of cereal and they're just you know jamming on the next episode. And I can relate to that feeling because I had my own shows I watched growing up that were that way for me. So I totally relate to it. And unlike live theater where you know there's applause and you can meet people afterwards or whatever, we don't get to until like years later. So it's that's my favorite part also as well as just to meet everybody and see the reaction that the work has on everyone. You know, it's so cool. And all and the other part, of course, would be I don't know Alexis very well at all. We just kind of got to know each other this last weekend, but I know Chris forever, and I've known Josh a bit, and Chris and I have known each other for 20 years now. So a big group of what I call my family is Dragon Ball, and it really means a lot to me because it's really your extended family that is there for you for more of your own stuff than sometimes your own family is. So it's the
We love you,
friendships
Sean.
I've gotten. Thank you.
We love you, Sean, man.
Thank you.
We love you, man.
So it's exciting. So and also to see your story because your story's a lot like Ian's, Alexis. Well, because Ian was like watching it growing up, and now he's Whis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
an interesting to have the new crew be a part of the family. So it's really
Well,
exciting.
and the fact that this show has continued for that long.
Yeah.
Continued long enough for something like that to happen. So,
I'm waiting for a
Thanks,
young
job
person
security.
who's younger than us to, we're much older, who grows up to be president and then wants us to come to the White House. That would be so cool. I don't think
I would
Trump's
like
gonna
that
run.
right
I
now.
like Dragon Ball. Come to the White House.
He's not gonna do that.
I'll give you some Kamehamehas.
He's not gonna.
Just help me build the wall, Sean.
I love the
Just blast the
commands.
energy, building the wall.
I love how
I need your
Dragon Ball
energy.
has all the best words
The best
and all
Kamehamehas.
the
best
power-ups.
That's
I
not
love-
gonna happen.
Love the
We
power-ups.
gather the Dragon
the
Balls, we're gonna
power-ups.
wish for a wall.
The screaming.
Sorry.
Yes.
So I can't wait till a different president will
I mean, it
be
really writes itself,
much.
come on.
Oh, thank you. Yay. You know, when I'm older.
I got candy.
But seriously though, like, your
these-
chances
are
are
these made out
probably
of
more
people?
likely now of that happening, because if it had been during Barack Obama's administration, you'd be like, well, see, I watched the subtitle version.
Yeah. Subtitle, because I'm a purist.
Yeah, he was a sub snob.
Yeah, he was a sub snob probably.
Man, I think the coolest thing about kind of growing up on the show, I think one of the most important things, like one of the most meaningful things for me, is when we were starting to do the movies. We lived in this sort of vacuum where we were just dubbing the show. At the start, we were dubbing it for 6-year-olds, for the most part. We were dubbing it for children, and we never really saw those children out except when they were with their parents. They might drag them to a convention or a bookstore or something like that. So we didn't really know how much impact we were even having. And a lot of the time, we were sort of always feeling like we're second to the Japanese version. Like we always had this, and we will always have this reverence for the Japanese version. But when we finally did the movies and we're starting to meet a lot of the executives from Japan and some of the creators of the show, they're like, your voices are clearly the voices that are, you are Vegeta in America. You are Goku in America.
They were very supportive of that.
It was actually, I got pretty upset, like get emotional about it, because it was the first time I'd ever felt like, oh gosh, maybe we have had some sort of impact on people.
I didn't get a feedback from the Japanese group from Toei or Shueisha until Scott Lonsky went to Japan and called me from Japan. And this was like during Resurrection F. And he called me and asked me a question or talked to me about something. And I go, hey, let me ask you, do they like it? He goes, oh yeah, they love it. They think it's great. I started crying on the phone. I couldn't believe that. I mean, I was moved by the fact that, because we'd not gotten any feedback from Toei or Shueisha because they're just communication and they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. And then they finally got more involved in the last 5 or 6 years. And once that happened, they started giving us feedback, and it was very, really gratifying to hear that. Because that's who you really want to please ultimately, is the people that make the show,
Yeah, we were super lucky to have been kind of involved in one of the shows where people actually prefer the dub over the sub in a lot of cases. So
Yeah, we're very lucky in that regard, and that's something that I think. Well, look, I never looked at it from a competitive point of view because I look at it as apples and oranges. But as a guy playing the character, I always looked at the character like I wasn't feeling. I had to make the character, something that was very accessible and something that was very iconic and defined for English-speaking audiences. And so that was my goal from day one. Is just I looked at it like I was, a new cast member on The Simpsons, which is an American prelay show, not a dub. And so I was so naive, I didn't understand that I was working on a dub and there would be this culture around both or one versus the other. Watch whatever you want. It's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. When I go in to do the work, I'm Goku, and that's what I'm doing, and I bring it all, 110% every time. Otherwise, I'll let you guys down. And I want you guys freaking out when there's a big blast, and I want you guys to feel it, Otherwise, I'm not doing my job right, And that's what I try to bring to the table every day. And that's all based on, luckily for us, because we're not prelay, the animation. The animation really gives me a lot of cues as to how much intensity I need to give. I never feel like I quite make it, but as long as I'm close, because it's an intense show. We have to warn new actors who get on it. You better be ready to sweat and scream,
have you sweat and screamed yet?
I sweat every time, and I'm not a sweaty guy. And every time I work on Goku, I'm
Sweaty, screaming good time.
sweaty, screaming. Yeah!
When Lex just came in, I was like, are you ready to sweat and scream?
Excuse me?
In the contract, you will
Get into this confined room and go.
sweat a liter a day.
The rooms are padded, don't worry about it.
It's air conditioned.
No one will hear you.
Scream.
That's the thing about a recording studio or Funimation, that you can walk down the hallways and hear screaming come from the rooms, and people just walk by and going, oh, must be recording Dragon Ball. Someone literally could be, like, if I wanted to have a kill room instead of a recording booth, I could just murder people all day and no.
Say I'm recording Dragon Ball.
It's like
Wow,
closed
the
session today,
screams are
guys.
so authentic.
I'll be-
They're doing such a good job.
I'll be up at Okatron and be like here in the back and be like, is Sean here? And be like, oh no, they're just doing some mixing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna say hello to Sean. You know.
I also think it's worth mentioning that Funimation back in the day, like Dragon Ball was all they had. So if it weren't for Dragon Ball, we wouldn't have Funimation as it is today. And I think Funimation owns like 82% of the market or something stupid. So, I mean, Dragon Ball paved the way for more anime
No
in
doubt.
America.
It was a gateway drug for all of you.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
Pokemon, it's anime.
If I had invented anime, you wouldn't have it today.
Thank you, Chris Abbott.
You guys are patient zero.
Patient zero for anime.
All you anime addicts. Well, that's why we called you here today. We all wrote letters.
Right. This is an intervention.
Yeah. Really.
Well, what do you say?
Anime abuse right now. You keep watching too much of it.
What do you say we hear from these anime addicts? What do you say?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we do this though, I must inform you